Today, what we will be going to discuss is we have discussed about the basic file permissions. So the last part on here that what we are going to discuss here is the advanced permissions, like how we will be going to deal with the. There is a one important aspects, like someone even last week asked the questions that can we assign multiple use ownership, multiple group ownership. Of course, what we have learned so far guaranteed that it is not possible to assign the multiple use ownership, multiple group ownerships. So let me take that examples in here, like just give me, right. So let's say, for example, this is what you need to understand. If you do have a like a file sharing mechanisms, like you are going to create a file server. So whenever you are going to deal with the file server, so let's say you have a folder called accounts folder, or let's say finance folder. That is a folder name. Now, what you need to do is you need to create a multiple use ownership with the different permissions. Let's say, for example, there will be accountant who will be having a read, write, execute permissions. Then we will be having accounts executives. They will be having read and execution permissions. That is the read only folder for the accounts executes. Then we will be having let's say head of the department of the account division, head of accountancy department. He will be also need to have the read, write, execute. So likewise, there are three persons who will be having a different sort of permissions. But what you have learned until up to now, we will be having, like based on the your theory, based on your learning, what you know is right now, we do have a issue like we cannot assign multiple use ownership, even cannot assign multiple use ownership and multiple group ownership. So we don't have we will be not going to have multiple use. We cannot assign multiple use ownership and the multiple group ownerships. So because of that, what we need to go ahead with, we have to go ahead with the access control list. Access control list, or rather we call it as a ACL. The ACL is the only way, then whenever, especially this ACL will be implemented when you implement in the file server environment, like there is a solution called Samba. Like you might definitely going to learn these things whenever you are going to deal with the industry, like as a system engineer or system administrator. Samba, there is a solution called Samba. This Samba is the open source Linux based solutions for implementing the file server. File server in the sense file sharing Mac servers, like whatever you are, what it's really going to do is you will be having like thousands users who are going to access centralized solution, centralized file. Like if you look at the Google Drive is a simply a file server mechanisms. If you look at the what you call in the Windows OneDrive, that is a file sharing file server. So for each and individual users, you will be able to given the centralized file solution, file storage space, which they will be able to store their data and will be able to access by the multiple users. That is called the file server environment. Is it clear, guys? Like, do you have any issues, concerns?
Yes, sir.
Any other things?
Sir, අර ගිය සතියේ කරපු ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. සර් මේ අපි ඩිරෙක්ටරිස් වලට පර්මිෂන් දෙද්දි මේ අර එක්සිකියුට් කරන්න අර command එක මේ permission දෙනවනේ execute කරන්න ඕන permission එක cd command එකෙන් execute වෙන්න.
ඕ
මම සර් ඔක්කොම permission නැති කරලා බලුවා ඒත් execute වෙනවා. මේ කියන්නේ folder එක ඇතුළට යනවා.
ඔයා root user කෙනෙක් check කරේ?
ඔව්.
ඒකයි. root user කෙන් check කරද්දී root user කෙන් ඔක්කොම හැම permission එකක්ම තියෙනවා.
ඒක සර් permission නැති කරත් මේ වෙනවා.
ඔව් root user තියෙනවා.
වෙන user කෙනෙක්
වෙන users ලට නැත්තේ.
හරි සර්.
ඔයා මොනව කරත් root user අනිවාර්යෙන්ම තියෙනවා. Clear guys?
Yes sir.
Right, any other things? Any other questions? ඔයා root user කෙන් ඔයාලා check කරන්න එපා permissions දාන්න. මොකද root user නැති වුණොත් එහෙම තව ප්‍රශ්නයක්නේ. ultimately root user අනිවාර්යෙන්ම තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඔක්කොම ටික. එයාට නැති කරොත් එහෙම ඒක නැති වෙන්න විදියක් නැහැ ඇත්තටම.
ඒ කියන්නේ සර් ෆයිල් එකක් වුණත් මේ permission නැති කරත් root user එකෙන් execute වෙනවානේ.
ඈ?
ෆයිල් එකක් වුණා අර ගියසදලි වගේ bash script එකක් ලියලා
bash script එකක් ලියලා මට තේරුන්නේ
අපි මොකක් හරි text file එකක් හදලා ඒකේ permission නැති කරත් root user එකෙන් execute වෙනවානේ.
නැහැ. execute වෙන්නේ නැහැ. execute permissions දීලා තිබ්බොත් විතර execute වෙන්නේ.
එතන සර් folders
folders වලට දැන් මෙහෙමනේ ටෙනින්. දැන් ඔයා මං ඔයාලට එදා කිව්වේ ෆයිල් වලට Linux kernel එකෙන්ම ෆයිල් වලට assign කරන maximum permissions ටික 666. එයාට දෙන්නේ නැහැ root access එක කොයි වෙලාවෙවත්. ඒකට sorry execution permissions දෙන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට අර umask value එක අයින් කරාට පස්සේ 022 කියන එක ඌට assign වෙන permissions තියෙන 644. හරිද? ඌට execution එන්නෙම නැහැ. හැබැයි folder එකක execution නැති වුණොත් ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඒ හින්දා 777 තමයි වැඩිපුර maximum වෙන permission එක. ඒකෙන් අඩු වෙලා 755 කියන එක වැටෙනවා. ඒතර ඔයාට මම කිව්වා එදා දැන් folder එක කොයි folder එකකට අනිවාර්ය execution bit එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මොකද නැත්තම් ඌට cd command execute කරලා ඇතුළට යන්න බෑ. ෆයිල් වලට එහෙම තියෙන්න බෑ. ෆයිල් වලට තිබ්බොත් එහෙම ඒක binary එකක් විදිහට execute කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ඕකින්ද ෆයිල් වලට කොයි වෙලාවවත් කිසිම වෙලාවක Linux kernel එකෙන් execution permission allow වෙන්නේම නැහැ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා permission අයින් කරත් root user ට උනත් execution permissions තියෙන්නේ නැහැ ෆයිල් එකක. එහෙම තියෙනවා නම් issue එකක් ඒක. ඒ කියන්නේ Linux kernel එක හරියට implement වෙලා නැහැ. clear දෙයකට එන්නේ.
ඔව් සර් ඒක clear මේ මම හිතුවේ දැන් ඔතන සර් අපි default එන එකත් ඒ කියන්නේ ඔක්කොම බිඳුව දැම්ම කිව්වම ඒකට කිසිම permission එකක් නැහැ. දැන් root එකේ
umask කැලුව එකද?
නෑ සර්. ඒ කියන්නේ file එකට තියෙන permission එක.
මේ ෆයිල් එකට තියෙන එක ඔක්කොම අයින් කරනවා බිඳුව දානවා. හරි.
දැන් අපි ඕක හැදුවා කියමුකෝ මේ folder එකකට. ඒ කියන්නේ folder එකේ එතකොට කිසිම මේ permission එකක් නැහැ. ඒකට cd command එක ගහලා folder එක ඇතුළට යද්දි යන්න විදියක් නැහැ.
නෑ. root user ට යන්න පුළුවන්. root ඔයා මොනවා කරත් ඔයා දැන් මම එක උදාහරණයක් පෙන්නන්නම්. දැන් බලන්න පොඩ්ඩයි. දැන් මේකේ ඔයාලා බලන්නකො මේකේ root user කතන්දරේ දැන් මේ මෙන්න මේ ෆයිල් එක ගත්තොත් එහෙම මේකේ තියෙන etc shadow ෆයිල් එක ඔයාලට මතක ඇතිනේ මේක කරා මේක දැන් root එකවත් නැහැනේ කිසිම permission එකක් හරි නේද ඒක හැබැයි ඒ වුණාට root user මේක on කරන්න open කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ ඌට බැරි වුණොත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේ මේක හැබැයි මේක ඔයා වෙන user කෙනෙක්ගෙන් බැලුවොත් එහෙම ඌට බෑ මේක මුකුත් කරන්න. permission deny කියලා එන්නේ. තේරුණාද? මේ ඌට open මුකුත් නෑ ඌට open කරාට. cat කරලා බැලුවත් වැඩක් නෑ. මොකද නිකන් view කරන්න ගියත් පෙන්වන්නේ නෑ මොකුත්. permission deny කියලා එන්නේ. හැබැයි root තමයි මේකේ ඉන්න privilege user Windows වල administrator වගේ. ඌට බැරි වුණොත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේද? ඌට අනිවාර්යෙන් පුළුවන් මේ ඔක්කොම view කරන්න. ඔයා read නෙමෙයි මොන දේවල් නොදී තිබ්බත් ඌට by default kernel behavior එක තියෙන්නේ Linux kernel එකෙන් behave කරන්නේ root user ට permissions නැති වුණොත් root අරගන්න පුළුවන් ඒ ඔක්කොම open කරන්න පුළුවන් clear දෙද?
ඔව් සර්.
තාම මොනවද ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන්නේ නිල් එකේ?
ඒ කියන්නේ සර් අපි රූට් වැඩ කරද්දී තමයි හරියට පරිස්සමෙන් වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ.
ඔව් root ඉතින් ඒක තමයි කේස් එකද. root user කියන්නේ privilege user කෙනෙක්. ultimately ඌට හැම privilege එකක්ම මෙතන තියෙනවා. ඒක clearද?
ඔව් සර්.
හරි. තව මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙද ඔයාලට ඒකේ? clarify කරගන්න. Any other questions, concerns so far guys to clarify? Yeah, like if you do have, please just raise guys, like because like then only you will be able to understand what you are going to like learn. Like if you do have any kind of question, like this is a good questions actually telling last, because most of the people will understand that whenever we have been assigned any kind of permissions, like whenever we have been like, let's say, revoke all the permissions to that particular folder, that will be impacted to the root as well. But in the simple theory, what you need to understand here is it won't impact to the root, because root is the ultimate user where he will be having the entire access to that the any access to the entire flow, like entire Linux environment. So that's what you need to understand. This permissions model will be actually impacted to the regular users that you are creating. Is it clear guys now? Like, do you have any other questions, concerns? Because if you do have, please just raise, because otherwise no point of learning these theories guys.
No sir.
Sure, right?
Yes sir.
Anything else? Are you sure that you are crystal clear understood what we have discussed so far?
Yes sir.
Right, okay. So let me explain you the rest of the things. Like so the ACL is one of the important concepts, like whenever you want to assign the multiple use ownership and the multiple group ownership. As I told you, this is the practical scenario where we going to use this ACL concept in the file server environment. So I just give you some example on the file server environment as well. So what you have to understand here is we will be going to heavily deal with the file server concepts whenever you are going to deal with this that we will be dealing with the ACL concepts heavily whenever you are going to deal with the file server, right? So now, having said that, if you want to know whether this ACL are being implemented onto the file or folder, what you need to do here is, whenever you have run the ls-l command, at the end of this permission sets, you will be seeing a dot sign here. Can you able to see this guys? A dot sign? Guys?
Yes sir.
Guys? හරි මේක මතක මේ ටික ඔළුවේ තියාගන්න මොකද assignment එක එනවා මේකෙන් ඈ නායෙන් කටින් අඬන්න එපා කෙලුණා කියනවා ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහගෙන යන්න ඊළඟ දැන් තව පැයකින් assignment එක එනවා ඔයාලට හොඳේ මේක තේරෙනවද?
Yes sir.
Right. So whenever you are going to deal with this Linux environment, at the end of this, once you run the ls-l command, this is how you are going to learn it. The view whether these particular files or folders are being impacted with the ACLs. Instead of the dot sign in here, if you see in the plus mark, that means for this particular file, they have been implemented the ACL, access control list. If you see in this folder, if you seeing a plus mark in here, that means they have been implemented the plus mark to the test folder. So that ACS to the test folder. So that is a one way of identifying the ACL in this environment. The other way is there is a two commands like get facal command. If you want to know the what are the ACLs that you have implemented. What you can do here is you can run the get facal command, get FACL. This is one of the second way of identifying whether you have been implemented the ACLs to that particular folder. But easiest way is to run the ls minus LA command. And if you see at the end of these permission sets, instead of dot sign, if you see the plus mark, I'll demonstrate you these things. That means they have been implemented the ACL onto your environment. ACL onto your environment. Are you clear, guys? Do you have any issues, concerns so far what we have discussed?
Yes, sir.
Do you clear? Like, do you have any issues, concerns?
Sir,
Yes.
can you explain it again?
Yeah, sure. So this is what I have mentioned here is whenever you want to understand whether you have been implemented the ACL to a file or folder. Let's say these are the folders. What you can see is at the end of the starting point here, if you see the D sign, that is you are accessing a directory. So if you see if you see this folder or file, at the end of this permission sets, here you can see the dot sign. Instead of the dot sign, if you see the plus mark here, that means that they have been implemented the ACL to that particular file or folder. That is the easiest way. Like once you run the ls minus LA command, so like you can run it to the test folder as well. So you can see nothing has been implemented any ACL here. So that is how you are going to see that whether you have implemented the ACL onto your environment. One way of doing that part. The other way is what you can run here is you can run the get facal against the file or folder. And if you have implemented the ACL, you will be seeing extra information. These are the default file ownership informations. This is the owner is the root user, owner, the group ownership is the Nisal group, and this is the user permissions, this is the group permission, and this is the other user permissions. So the file name is there. But if you see, apart from this information, if you see a multiple other informations like with the multiple usernames or the multiple group names, that is of course what you need to understand here is it has been implemented the ACL here. Now, are you clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. Any other questions, concerns, anything else that you want to know?
I think no, sir.
Okay, great. So now let's move ahead with the rest of the concepts in here. So now what we will be going to discuss here is, let's say, if you want to implement the ACL, it's a simple, straightforward. So what you need to know, let's say who are the users which we have been created in here. We have user, and then Kasun, Nisal, Sashika. So there are 3 users created in here. And we'll see what are the groups created because we should know those things. HR accounts, there are two groups. Right, no worries there. Now, whenever you want to implement the ACL, what you need to use is the set facal command. Set FACL minus M. M stand for modification. Then you must say whether you are going to add the user ownership or the group ownership. Let's say I'm going to add the user ownership. I am going to add the user ownership to the Kasun user with the read write execute permissions to the test directory. This is how we are going to implement. Now, if you see the ls-la command, here the changes that I have mentioned. Instead of the dot sign, you will be seeing the plus mark here. That means that this particular folder, you have implemented the ACL. Are you clear, guys? Now, if you run the get facal test command, test folder, you will be able to see these are the normal ownerships, like traditional file ownerships, group ownerships. And here you can see extra user informations, user Kasun having read, write, execute permissions. This is the ACL that you have implemented. Set facal command, set facal. But if you see the inside of this particular directory, none of these folders, none of these files or the folders inside that folder have been implemented that particular ACL, because we have implemented the ACL to only to the main folder. If you want to implement the same thing to the existing subfolders and the file, what you need to run here is you have to run it on the recursive mode. Once you run it on the recursive mode, you can see all the subfolders and the file have been assigned that particular ACL. Now, if you get the get facal command on the test, let's say, for example, student.1 file, you will be able to see user Kasun have the read, write, execute permissions. User Kasun have the read, write, execute permissions. So this is how you will be implementing the ACLs to the subfolders and the file. But unfortunately, let's say, for example, when I go to the test folder, and if I now we have the file subfiles and the subfolders and the file which is that is implemented the ACL. Now I am going to create the after ACL folder. Unfortunately, even though these things has been implemented, like with the recursive mode, that newly created folders does not get that ACL. Why? Because the ACL, keep in mind, did not inherit. By default, the ACL did not inherit. Inherit කියන්නේ දැන් ඔයා recursively run කරොත් එහෙම තියෙන file ටිකටයි folders ටිකට apply වෙනවා. හැබැයි අලුතෙන් හදන ඒවට inherit වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම වුණොත් ආයි අර command එකම ඔයා run කරන්න ඕනි. set facal command එක -r කරලා run කරන්න ඕනි recursive කරලා. ඒක practically නෑනේ. දැන් මේක ආයි run කරොත් දැන් ඕනනම් apply වෙලා. දැන් අන්න අර හදපු එකට apply වෙලා තියෙනවා. නේද? plus mark එක පෙන්වන්නේ ඒකයි. දැන් පේනවා. දැන් ඔයාලට අපි get set facal කරොත් එහෙම set facal මම කරනවා minus මේ commands මතක තියාගන්න. set facal -m group එකට මම දානවා. group එකට HR group එකට මම දානවා read and execute permissions test folder එකට. then මම මේකේ set get facal කියලා ගැහුවොත් එහෙම test folder එකට අර ACL දෙකක් implement කරලා තියෙනවා. එකක් තමයි user Kasun කියන ACL එක, අනිත් එක group HR කියන ACL එක. මේ විදිහට තමයි අපි multiple ownership assign කරන්නේ. මේ මෙතන user ගේ ඇතුලේ මුකුත්ම නැතුව තියෙන එකක් තියෙනව නේද? there is a user within the colon. You don't see any username. That is actually they are saying the original user ownership, and here they are splitting the original group ownerships. These are the ACL that you have implemented. Access control list. But what you need to understand here is these ACL by default, these are not inheritable. That means whenever you have run the ACL in the recursive option, with the recursive options, whatever the ACL will be implemented to that particular subfolders and the file. But from that point onward, whenever you are going to create, your newly created view file and the folders will not get impacted the existing ACLs. By default, the ACL are not inherits. Is it clear, guys? Do you have any issues, concerns so far what we have discussed?
Clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions, concerns? Anything else that you want to know? මේවා ඉතින් practice කරන්න ඕනේ. Practice නොකරන ඉතින් ගොඩ යන්න අමාරුයි මේ. මේ මම ඔයාලට අපි practically experience කරන ඒවා තමයි මම ඔයාලට පෙන්නුවේ. practice කරන්න, practice නොකරොත් ඔයාලට ගොඩ යමක් නැත. Sorry, plentyව තමයි. Right. Anything else, guys? Any special thing that you want to ask, you want to know? Any questions so far what we have discussed before we proceeding? Right, hope you are actually quite confident on this. So now let's move with the other discussions as well. So we actually move into the last part of this particular discussions. There is a concept called default ACL. Let me explain that one. A concept of default ACL. First, I'll explain the theoretical part. Default ACL. Default ACL, what really going to do is, it will allow the ACL inherits to the newly created file or folders, newly created subfolder or file. මේ inherit කතා වෙන්නේ ඇත්තටම මේ හොඳට ඔළුවේ තියාගන්න මේ subfolder and file folder එකකට විතරයි ඈ file එකක් ඇතුලේ අපි තව file හැදින්නක් නැහැනේ. එතකොට ACL inherit කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මොකද file එකට ගැහුවොත් මේ file එකට වැඩ කරනවා. Clear the guys එක? Subfolder and files. Default ACL, what we will be going to discuss this particular concepts only for the default ACL will be impacted only for the folders, not for the files. Keep in mind, just give me a second, guys. Right, sorry guys. So what you need to understand here is like default ACL will be only applicable to the folders. What really they are going to do is, it will imply the ACL inheritance options to the newly created files or the folders. Let me show you some demos in here. And with that, we definitely going to wind up the ACL concepts for you guys. So I'm not going to go through another technical aspects. There are different kind of aspects that we need to look at, but I'll be just wind it up from that point onwards, because it's you will be basically learn rest of the things while you are dealing with the practicals, and as well as while you are applying in the live environment also. There are several other concepts also which you need to know, but I'm not going to discuss at this point, because there is a value called mask value and those sort of things, but it's no point of discussing without getting experiences on the ACLs. Then only it is better to discuss the mask concepts. So, but for the time being, just I'll be explaining you how these ACL concepts are going to work. So what you need to understand here is, whenever you are going forward, so the ACL, default ACL, why we will be implementing the default ACL is to, like, it's just something like this. Say for example, to inherit the ACLs, like say for example, right now, whenever you are going to create anything inside this test folder, you will be not getting, like say for example, if you create a new file or folder in here, you don't get impacted with the these things. Let's say like next test2 directory. Still you can't see that. You can't see the ACL has been implemented. See, whenever you have implemented set facal with the -d options, that is the default ACL with the -m in the sense modifying. I'm going to say user I need to look at who are the users in there. Okay, I'm going to say set facal -d stand for, that is a default ACL, -d, -m stand for modifications, u, and what you are going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to assign the user Nisal with the read write execution, that is the default ACL for the test folder. Now, if you look at the get facal command for the test folder, you will be able to see another interesting thing, that there is a default ACL allowed. Make it what you can see here is within the colon, user colon, you don't see any username, that is specifying the, they are specifying simply the, that they actually specifying simply the user details there. So the default user ownerships. But here, this is the Nisal user. This is the default ACL that we have executed here, and it's look like this. Now, if you look at the test inside the test folder, sorry guys, inside the test folder, still, even though we have implemented the default ACL, that won't affect to the existing files or the folders. Existing file impact. What it actually impact is after _d _ACL. Touch after _d _ACL. Let's say it's a text file. Now look at this. Sorry. Oh, right. Now, if you look at here, it's automatically get assigned the ACL. What they have been assigned is the default ACL. If you look at the get facal command after _d _ACL, sorry, ACL, you are getting the user Nisal read write execute permissions. This is the default ACL. None of the other ACL have been implemented, because if you want to allow the other ACLs also, which you have earlier assigned, you have to assign it recursively. Only the default ACLs, which you have defined like with the -d, මෙන්න මෙහෙම -d එකත් එක්ක implement කරපු ACL විතරයි inherit වෙන්නේ. Otherwise, the other ACLs which you have defined there, the normal ACLs, will need to recursively assign again and again in order to apply to the new folders and the files. That is what exactly you need to understand. Are you clear, guys, about this ACL concepts? Do you have any issues, concerns on these regards? If you want to deal with the set facal command, like you have the man page, what you can do is when you go down, you can see the examples. This is one of the examples how you are going to granting the ACLs. If you want to remove the ACLs, set facal -b options will remove all the ACLs. Let's say, for example, if you look at the get facal on the after _ACL folder, it's only having one. Like if you want to remove everything, what you can do is, let's say, for example, set facal -b option after _ACL will remove everything there. See, nothing is now there. will remove everything. But if you want to remove one by one, you can use the minus X options. Set facal minus X. You need to look at what is the ACL. That let's say, for example, if you look at the ACL you have implemented to the student one dot file. So there is a user kasun, and what you need to do is set facal minus X U kasun. You just remember that one only. You don't want to specify everything, and you are mentioning student one, remove it. Now, if you look at this, if you look at the get facal, student one, it has been removed. See, so you can remove either one by one ACLs, or you can remove all the ACL at once with the minus B options. With the minus X options, you have to specify which ACL that you are going to remove. You just want to specify only these details. You don't want to specify all the permissions sets. You don't want to specify. You are going to say that the assign ACL for the user Kasun will be removed. The assign ACL for the group HR will be removed. Likewise, just only thing that you need to assign. Are you clear, guys? Like whenever you are going to deal with this ACL. Do you have any issues, concerns so far what we have discussed?
Sir, default
Default ACL එකෙන් වෙන්නේ ඔයා දැන් command එක clear දෙයකේ default ACL එක ගහන දැන් ඔයාට කරන් තියෙන්නේ set facal කියලා ගහලා -d හරිනේ -d කියලා ගැහුවා -m කියලා ගැහුවා modify කරනවා group එක HR group එකට ඔයා දෙනවා read permission මොකටද ඒක මොකක් හරි අපි හිතමුකෝ test එක ඇතුලේ after underscore ACL කියන එකට කියන මේකට දෙනවා දැන් මේක දුන්නම දැන් මම get facal කරොත් එහෙම මේක get facal කරොත් එහෙම test එකේ after underscore ACL කියන එකට ඔයාලට පෙනේ මෙතන default ACL එකක් ගහලා තියෙනවා දැන් මෙතන වෙන්නේ දැන් මම test එකේ after underscore ACL එක ඇතුළට ගියාට පස්සේ මෙතන වෙන්නේ මෙතනින් එහාට හදන මම touch කරොත් එහෙම 1.txt එකකුයි හරිද touch කරොත් එහෙම tenil කියලා folder එකයි sorry tenil කියලා file එකක් mkdir කරොත් එහෙම tenil කියලා folder එකක් දැන් මේ හදපු ඔක්කොටම අර default ACL එක inherit වෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ආයි අමුතුවෙන් execute කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. දැන් මේකේ get facal කියලා 1.txt ගැහුවොත් එන්නේ group HR එක inherit වෙලා. ඊට පස්සේ ආයි මම get facal කියලා tenil කියලා ගැහුවොත් එන්නේ group HR එක inherit වෙලා. get facal කියලා tenil folder එක බැලුවොත් අර default ACL එක inherit වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ default ACL එක inherit වෙලා තියෙනවා clear දෙක
ඔව්
default ACL එක තමයි inherit වෙන්නේ එතකොට මේ ඒ කියන්නේ අලුතෙන් හදන files වලට folders වලට ඉබේටම automatically inherit වෙනවා ප්‍රේෂණය වෙනවා කියන්නේ ප්‍රේරණය වෙනවා automatically ඔයාලා ආයි හදන්න දෙයක් නැහැ default ACL එකේ තියෙන chance එක ඒකයි නැත්තම් default ACL නැතුව normal ACL එකක් ගහලා තිබ්බොත් අලුතෙන් හදන හැම ෆයිල් එකකටම ෆෝල්ඩර් එකට වෙන වෙනම අර ඔයා ගහපු ACL එක ඉන්හෙරිට් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඉන්හෙරිට් නෙවෙයි රිකර්සිව්ලි රන් කරන්න ඕනේ. You need to run it recursively. Clear දෙක. Any questions concerns guys so far what we have discussed? ACL එකේ මොකද්ද පැහැදිලි කරන්න ඕනේ මොන වගේ දෙයක්ද ඒ කියන්නේ ACL එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ මම නිකන් explanation එක දෙන්නම් ආයි ACL එකක් අපිට ඕන වෙන්නේ multiple දැන් හිතන්නකෝ මම file share එකක් කරනවා කියලා share කරලා තියෙනවා folder set එකක් දැන් ඒකේ උදාහරණයකට මම ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඒකේ tenilට දෙන්න ඕනේ read write execute permissions විදසුන්ට දෙන්න ඕනේ read and execute permission විතරයි දැන් ඔය ඇවිල්ලා users ලා දෙන්නෙක්ට වෙන වෙනම assign කරන්න ඕනි permissions. ඕක අපි use කරන basic file permission model එක කරන්න බෑ. මොකද basic file permission ඔය chmod command වලින් chon command වලින් යන්නේ වගේ අපිට assign කරන්න පුළුවන් එක user කෙනයි ඌට permissions දෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට assign කරන්න පුළුවන් එක group එකයි ඌට permissions දෙන්න පුළුවන්. multiple groups multiple users ඕන වෙලාවට ඔගේ file sharing යන වෙලාවට අපිට ACL access control list කියන concept එකට යන්න ඕනි. හේතුව තමයි එතකොට විතරයි අපිට මේ වගේ multiple users multiple group එක ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඕන different permission assign කරන්න. ඕක තමයි ACL එකක් දෙන එකේ main concept එක main consideration. ඒක clearද? ඕක තමයි ඇත්තටම කරන්නේ. right. එතකොට command එක තමයි get faculty එකයි set faculty එකයි. get faculty එකෙන් කරන්නේ ACL implement වෙච්ච ඒවා පෙන්නනවා. මේ වගේ set faculty -m command එකෙන් කරන්නේ ACL implement කරනවා. -m ඔයාලා මේ command ලියාගෙන තියාගත්තොත් හොඳයි. නැත්තම් කෙලා. exam එකට සමහරවල්ලාට commands එන්න පුළුවන්. command එක දීලා ඒක explanation එක අහන්න පුළුවන් ඈ. හරි. මේක තේරුණාද guys ඔයාලට? Do you have any issues, concerns so far what we have discussed? Anything else?
yes sir. Clear, right? ඕක ඇතුළට ෆයිල් එක කොපි කරත් මේ දැන් අපි එළියේ දාලා තිබිච්ච වෙන permission
මට තේරුණා නැහැ.
දැන් ඔතන ওই ෆයිල් එක මේ ෆෝල්ඩර් එකක් හදලා
ඔව්.
තියනවානේ දැන් ඕකට අපි මොකක් හරි access list දාලා තියනවානේ.
ඔව්.
දැන් එළියේ තියෙන මොකකට හරි අපි permission ඒ කියන්නේ එළියේ හද ওই ෆෝල්ඩර් එකෙන් නැතිව එළියේ හදපු මොකක් හරි එකකට දැන් අපි permission දීලා නැත්තුව ඒකවකත් දැම්මත් ඒක change වෙනවානේ. කොපි කරොත්
නෑ කොපි කරොත් change වෙන්නේ නෑ.
ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් ඔය ෆෝල්ඩර් එකට අර මේ ඩිෆෝල්ට් එන්න හදලා කොපි කරාට එන්නේ නැහැ. හැදුවොත් විතර දෙන්නේ.
ඔව් ඔව්. ඔයා කොපි කරාට එන්නේ නැහැ. ඕක අලුතෙන් හදන ඒවාට විතරයි ඩිෆෝල්ට් එක. ඕන්න මම පෙන්නන්න එකක් බලමු. මාත් අතර මේ ඔය තියෙන සිනාරියෝ එක try කරලා නෑ බලමු. දැන් මේකට මම ඩිෆෝල්ට් ACL එකක් දාලා තියෙනවනේ. දැන් මේ default ACL එක දැන් මම මෙතෙන්ට ඔන්න මම මෙතන තියෙන එකක් get faculty කියලා ගහලා student 10 කියන එක ගත්තොත් එහෙම හරි මේක විතරනේ තියෙන්නේ මම දැන් මේක copy කරනවා student 10 කියන එක මේක copy කරොත් එහෙම after underscore ACL කියන එක ඇතුළට දැන් මම ඒකට ගිහිල්ලා බැලුවොත් get faculty එක ගහලා student 10 එකට ඔය default ACL එක assign වෙලා තියෙනවා sorry ඒක assign වෙනවා අර තිබ්බ ACL line වෙලා default ACL එක assign වෙනවා ඒක හරියට ඒක තමයි වෙන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ තිබ්බ ACL line වෙලා default ACL එක assign වෙනවා copy කරාට පස්සේ හැබැයි ඔයා move කරා කියන්නකො තව මම example එකක් පෙන්නන්නම් මේක copy නැතුව move කරා කියන move කරොත් එන්නේ නැහැ දැන් මේකේ get faculty කියලා ගහලා student 2 කියන එක ගන්නකො මේකේ කසුන් එක තියෙනවා. දැන් මම move කරනවා student 2 කියන එක. after ACL එක ඇතුළට. දැන් ඔයා ගියොත් එහෙම after underscore ACL එක ඇතුළට get faculty එක ගැහුවොත් student.2 කියන එක හරි move කරාට assign වෙන්නේ නැහැ. copy කරොත් විතරයි default ACL එන්නේ. move කරොත් එන්නේ නැහැ. move කරොත් තිබ්බ original file එකේ ACL එක තමයි එන්නේ. clear the training එක. මට පැටලුණා ඇත්තට. move එකයි copy එකයි පැටලුණා මට.
yes sir.
copy කරොත් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අර විදිහට මේ ACL එක implement වෙනවා. හරිද guys? පැහැදිලිද ඒක?
yes sir.
Okay. Any questions so far what we have discussed? Anything else? Right. So if you guys are pretty much clear on this, so let's wind up for this particular session. So So with this, we are going to complete the entire permission model, but of course, keep in mind that we didn't go through the others. There is another one called Say Linux that of course we didn't go through it, and some other concepts, some other few things on the ACS as well. We just skipped that one due to the since this is undergraduate course. But anyway, you will be definitely going to touch on these things, and if you come to the Red Hat certifications like RX CSA courses, I'll be definitely going through you about the say Linux and the other concept on the ACS as well, because that is of course we are going to learn that one. So with this, we will be going to wind up the session, and I'll be giving you now it's 10:43. Exactly, we are going to start the assignment on 10:50. So the assignment will be posted shared in your screens. Just give me 7 minutes. So I'll be giving you the assignment. So 10:50 we are going to start the assignments. I'll giving you 1 hour time to complete the entire assignment. So 10:50, 11:50 we need to complete it, and after that we are going to start the rest of the lessons in here. So next lessons that we are going to learn is the disk management. Of course, for about we will be covering out at the end of the July, we'll be able to cover out the disk management. So that means we have completed your entire syllabus. So the next 2 chapters are the extra chapters we are going to cover out, like how to deal with the web browsing, like web servers and the DNS configurations. So these 2 are the extra content that we are going to learn, but at the July 30th, before the July 30th, we have been covered your entire syllabus. So, but still, we take another 2 weeks times on the until up to the mid of the August to complete the rest of the chapters and to complete the entire sessions of the Linux system administrations. Okay, guys. So, just give me a 6 minutes times. I'll be giving you the assignment. I'll be giving exactly 1 hour, until 12. So you need to go through this assignment and complete it. And again, as usual, the answers, I just required the commands. So you can send it through the Zoom chat. So the assignment can start now, guys. I'll be on the mute mode. If you do have any issues, concerns, just chat me. Even you can chat it through the WhatsApp also as well. So, but don't send your answers through the WhatsApp. Huh? Please send it all the answers through the Zoom chat. Okay, guys. So, do you have any issues, concerns?
Okay. Free request එක ඕක දාන්න ඕනේ නැහැ නේද? උත්තර.
ඒ ටිකත් ඕනේ. යකෝ ඒ ටික හදන්න එපා.
නෑ ඒ ටික
ඒ ටික ඕනේ. Prerequisites ඔයාලා user create කර මේ ඔයාලා ගහන හැම command එකක්ම දාලා එවන්න ඕනේ.
Okay.
මේ prerequisites ටිකට අදාළවයි questions ටිකට අදාළවයි. හරි නේද?
හරි සර්.
Right. I'll be on the mute mode. Huh? 2 things that we are going to learn apart from the disk management, and after that we'll be going to wind up your entire sessions. So today I'm not going to go through another exercise another lecture. We will be going to wind up for today, and we'll start from the next Tuesday onwards. So if time permits, I'll let you know whether we can be able to do it on Monday as well. So if it is possible, let's do it on the Monday also. So I'll let you know that one, guys. If you guys are free, then we can obviously go ahead with the on that timeline. So I'll let you know. I'm not quite sure, but I'll let you know definitely. Okay, so then we will be winding up for today, and we'll meet on next most probably Tuesday. Definitely will be there, but I did the Monday also, if there is a possibility, that I'll let you know. Okay, guys. So stay safe, guys, and wish you a happy weekend and stay safe.
Thank you, sir.